أستاذ أيوب، يسعد مساك وتفضل باشر حتى ما نتأخر عليك وعلى الزملاء.
يسعد مسا الجميع، يسعد مساك أستاذ مصطفى، يسعد مسا الجميع جروب الفيزيكس تيتشرز بلبنان. بيسعدني أنا وبيشرفني يعني هيك من فترة لفترة نلتقى كلنا على هذا الجروب، هيك نتشارك الأفكار اللي عنا، نفيد ونستفيد أكيد بنفس الوقت. اليوم مثل ما حكيت أنا وأنت المرة الماضية في هيك ويب سايت، يعني النوت بوك الآن اللي هو النوت بوك لانجويج موديل. فكرت انه هو يكون effective as a tool يعني used for teachers. حنبلش هيك بانترودكشن سريعه عنه. حنروح للباوربوينت بالاول، وحنروح البارت 2 مثل ما عملنا اخر مره مع الليتكس. حيكون في عنا شيء براكتيكال، يعني هيك الزملاء بيشوفوا كيف عم نشتغل، وممكن هن كمان يجربوا اذا كمان سمح لنا الوقت. خليني عم بعمل شير انا عادي صح؟ يعني هذا الفيديو انترودكشن حيكون للتوبيك فور today 1 minute، يعني 122 seconds مش اكثر. بنعمل له شير وبنبلش نشتغل بالباوربوينت.
This whole story starts with just a simple hello, but trust me, there's way more to it. Yeah, hello everyone, and welcome. Seems pretty standard, right? But it's packed with meaning. So what makes this one greeting so important? Well, let's get into it. That voice you're hearing? That's Ayoub Hayik, and he's got a very clear mission. He's a physics teacher, and he's actually speaking from his current job in Abu Dhabi. He calls it a blessed evening, and his audience is a really specific group. He's speaking to his fellow Lebanese educators. They're all working together on one big thing. And that one big thing, in his own words, it's all for their lovely Lebanon. So what's the whole point of this get-together? It's simple, sharing useful ideas. And he gives a big thank you to Mr. Mustafa Sakaria for making it all happen. You can see the ripple effect here. Ideas go from teacher to teacher and then to students. This is what pedagogy is all about. It's teachers helping other teachers get even better. Okay, so where's all of this hard work headed? There's a really clear goal here. The ultimate goal? Building a future empowered generation right there in Lebanon. It's amazing, right? One teacher's talk is directly shaping a whole nation's future. So it really makes you wonder, what is the true power of just one teacher's voice?
Okay. Okay, so introducing the session, مرة تانية, welcome everybody for this session for today. We're gonna talk for today's session about the notebook LM for physics, not only for physics, even for other subjects, especially for chemistry scientific subjects, as well as Arabic and English all together. First of all, شو هو النوتبوك LM؟ النوتبوك LM هو as a language model، هو similar somehow يعني to a certain extent للchat GPT for example, for Gemini و many ممكن teachers بيحكي لك at the beginning إنه they look similar، بس for stage 1 they are similar, for stage 2, for stage 3 they look totally different. Okay, so what is the notebook LM? The notebook LM generally هو is a thinking partner, helps you analyze, summarize and connect ideas. Well, good thing for the notebook LM إنه هو traceable to the original documents. يعني أنت you uploaded for example 2 sources, 3 sources, any answer from the notebook LM is linked with the sources that you have uploaded. فهو ما حيعطيك answers برات الsources اللي أنت عملت لهم upload. ونحن sometimes when using let's say the Gemini or ChatGPT, we notice that the answers sometimes يعني not accurate أو not linked with the sources that we are using، وهذا اللي هو totally different while checking with the notebook LM. Why teachers they want the notebook LM؟ نحن بنعرف all of us we have too much content, we have many classes, we need to have the differentiation in the class, we need to implement the autonomous learning for students, the independent learning. Students should carry on, should go and search, and should have their own responsibility for the class that they are handling. For this reason we can use the notebook LM and implement this as a bridge between teachers and students. يعني هذا النوتبوك LM ما حيكون only for teachers، لا، we can share it, we can have a notebook, we can share this as a link with students so that they can have it as a reference to revise from, to study from, to have. We're gonna check the ads on from the notebook LM like the video generation, the audio وكل شيء غيره. Okay. أول شيء شو sources أو the heart for the notebook LM؟ يعني we can use a variety of sources. We can start with a PDF textbook, we can use exams, PowerPoint, Word documents, latex files, YouTube transcripts. أي شيء نحن عنا هو as a source we can upload on the notebook LM. We can ask notebook LM to check for other sources on the internet. Okay. Before we start, we need to set up the notebook LM. يعني each teacher has his or her own يعني criteria for teaching in the class. So أنا هفتح النوتبوك الآن على الويب سايت so that we can check it all together. Before we start, and I'm working now on Unit 3, work, energy and power. Before proceeding, كل شيء واضح الصوت والباوربوينت و everything?
اوكي صحيح استاذ ايوب.
Okay.
كله ممتاز.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So before we start, نحن عندنا هذا النوتبوك الآن. It's free by the way. You can have an upgrade يعني, but you can use it as a free account. So you can create a new notebook. When creating a new notebook, first thing نحن we need to go for the configure notebook يعني configuration, setting up your requirements from the notebook الآن. So you can use the default, the learning guide for teachers, and the custom you can add some customized instructions for the notebook الآن that will use forever يعني مش أنت كل مرة you need to add that instruction خلاص it's once. So choose your response length. It depends. Maybe you are in the class, you need something shorter. Maybe for English, for other subjects, you need something as a longer. When setting up the goals, we need to go to the sources. For adding the sources, we can add the sources either from the desktop يعني أنت عندك يكون PDF Word document أي شيء أنت موجود عندك على الديسكتوب you can upload on the notebook الآن أو you can have your own research. So own your own research from the web, from the drive. The fast research عندك أنت two options. Either fast research great for quick results يعني you're checking something specific for the subject يعني maybe for let's say angular momentum, the difference between angular momentum and the momentum, the linear, something fast and you need to have a quick result. However, for a deep research, maybe you can add it as an authentic task for students, maybe as a research paper at the end of the week, as a deep research checking, let's say, a big concept at the end of the week, they need to summarize, they need to have a presentation the week after. You can add depending on your work in the class, okay? As well as you can add a link, URL, website from YouTube, anything you need to have. Okay, so when adding the sources, first of all, we need to understand يعني, the platform so that we can know how to deal with. The left side is any sources we are adding will appear on the left side. In the middle, we have the chat box. So any chat, anything we have as a chat history is saved in the middle area here. And on the right side, we have the studio. We have for the studio, the audio overview, the video overview. We have the reports, mind map, and all of these availabilities, which are free, by the way. طيب, we set up the configuration for the chat. We add, let's say, a resource, or we set up the fast research. We usually use the deep research. We can ask any question here. Then the notebook الآن will go and search for this question that is specific to us. فأنت عندك بنوتبوك الآن either you can add a source from your desktop. So this will be specific research according to the source that you have added. يعني أنت, for example, you can add a PowerPoint. I want a quiz from this PowerPoint, okay? So the notebook الآن will not go for any other website and search. لا, will pick up a quiz from this PowerPoint أو a study guide, for example, to share with students before the exam. Okay? هذا حيكون generally we set up the goals. We need to start now with the notebook الآن. طب, we set up the goals. Now we put the fast research or the research. We said we have a multiple sources and cross-thinking. Yani we can add existing something that we have on the desktop, or we can add something external from any website we have. Okay, these are an example. I took a picture. Let's say, for example, I added a PDF, I added a YouTube, and I added a Word document. Answers are traceable to the original documents. So I can ask, for example, compare how energy is described in AP Physics versus General Physics. And here on the right side, we have, as we said, the options that we can choose for our study. First one, video generation. Video generation is different from other AI generators as this is free. We're gonna check some of the videos as with the graphics, resolution حتى will specificity in targeting the outcomes that we are checking for students. يعني أنت عم تحكي, for example, you have a PowerPoint, you can upload the PowerPoint and notebook الآن will generate a video specific to the PowerPoint that you want. أنت ممكن تعطيه prompt, for example, I want this, link it with Lebanon, link it with a certain concept, for example, a problem, traffic, maybe for example towers, whatever, engineering, physics. Okay, so we add our prompt or we add a YouTube video. ممكن انت يكون عندك, let's say, for example, YouTube, a video 2-3 minutes, your PowerPoint, a PDF, practice questions. So you can add all of these, click on the sources that you want here. You can click on the sources that you want and then press on the video overview. Now when pressing on the video overview, you have either the explainer or the brief. Explainer يعني a structured comprehensive overview حيكون 5, 6, 7 minutes. Brief حيكون يعني around 1 minute, 2 minutes. نفس الفيديو that I did at the beginning. يعني for the video that I did at the beginning is that I introduce myself for a brief introduction. I don't want to have it as an explainer. You can choose the language. You can choose Arabic as well for other subjects. Here you can have a custom for the style. It depends. Here are the available styles. And what should the AI hosts focus on? So you can add a prompt. Okay, so هذا example for the video. One of the examples I did for the electrical power and energy in Lebanon. We know that power, let's say, is U multiplied, or I multiplied by V, energy is P times T, okay. But at the end of the day, if you're not showing the student something related to his country, something he's facing in his country, you will not be able to have 100% engagement in the class. So the example for the electric power, I will just show you around 20 seconds for the video. You can see that this is linked to your country, so you are grabbing the attention of students into the lesson, and you're convincing students that we need to learn this subject because we are seeing that subject as a real example in our life. That's 20 minutes or 20 seconds, sorry, as an example.
Let's get into the physics behind Lebanon's daily power cuts and generator switches. That sound we all know so well, the sudden silence, then the generator kicks in. But this daily switch, it's not random. It's actually just basic physics at play. To really get it, we just need to understand one thing: electric power. Think of power as how much energy measured in watts an appliance needs to work. Here in Lebanon, voltage is easy. It's always a constant 220 volts from any socket. Now, current is the key. It's the flow, and it's what your generator subscription limits. And this super simple formula connects everything. Power equals voltage times current. That's it. So how does this math explain, well, our daily reality? Let's take a look. State power has high capacity, but it's unreliable. Your generator is the total opposite. You see, you're not paying for unlimited power. You're paying for a limited amp budget.
Okay, so هذا example. I have chosen the example to be for 1 minute 46 seconds in the brief video. Okay, if you want to share something with students as a full video and having an explanation, full explanation for the topic, you can choose the different option. Okay, so this is for the video generation. If you have any question at the end of the session, we can have a negotiation for that. Again, I have chosen this one, the power. I took a screenshot, and this is the video. You can download the video, you can share it with your students, or you can check on with the playback speed. Okay. Stage 2, the audio podcast. Audio podcast is applicable for all subjects, especially for English, or even for physics. For physics, I like the podcast that it enhances the students' critical thinking. We know for the exam distribution, we cannot add only questions for knowledge. We cannot only add questions for application. However, we need to have somehow a distribution between knowledge, application, reasoning. We need to have the depth of knowledge from 1 till 4. So we need to have a debate. The debate is like a discussion between two AI hosts. One person is having his side, for example, for kinetic energy. We can add a debate between quantum physics, classical physics in the high school when having the transition from the classical physics to quantum physics for the photoelectric effect. So one of them will be supporting the classical physics side. The other will be supporting the quantum physics side. You can share it with your students, share it in the class. So students need to listen, need to take notes. And at the end of the session, they need to check whether they agree for the classical physics or for the quantum physics. Or you can choose it as a brief, a short high-level overview, a deep dive, a critic. For example, for philosophy in Lebanon, we can use the critic, they can listen. And again, you can choose the language as Arabic. Okay, so the debate format is especially useful if you want to understand the topic more deeply, as it highlights contrasting ideas, okay, and arguments. Specific instructions for the podcast, such as the tone, focus areas, you can also modify. Example, when opening the podcast, I can choose, for example, I have chosen the life science session 2015 for physics. When opening the podcast, I want to choose this PDF only. I can have as an overview for the exam as an exam. I can add the deep dive, whatever we said before, the debate, and we can add here the language, the short or the long, and the things to try, for example, focus on the kinematics more than focusing, let's say, on electricity and magnetism for that debate. Okay, so let's listen for one of the debates. I added one of the debates. It was between the energy and the work. I have chosen as the long for 6 minutes. So listen, please, best for the debate between two AI hosts. Okay, I will just put it as 1.1.
Let me reframe this using question 13, the spring block system. I think this really is the crux of it. We have two blocks, a heavy one M and a lighter one N. We compress the spring by the exact same distance D. From my point of view, the physics here is dictated entirely by that initial state. 1/2 kd squared. The fuel tank of energy is identical for both blocks. That is the boundary condition that truly matters.
But I'm sorry, I just don't see how that holds up. The result in question 13 explicitly shows the heavier block stops sooner. If the fuel tank is the same, why is the result different?
So you see here is a debate. So that debate, students now are listening, they are having their critical thinking, they're checking whether they agree with him or her, and this is something good, yani, to break up the routine in the class instead of having only a lecture in the class. Students are listening, the teacher is explaining the lesson. No, we can have something like an AI helping us inside the class to attain a better results for students at the end of the day. Okay, so this goes for the audio podcast. I told you can add this also for English, for example, as to maybe make a better listening skills for students, for speaking, let's say, and whatever subjects. For philosophy, for the critic as well is very good in Arabic. Now, this slide deck generation. For the slide deck generation, it is a PowerPoint presentation, but the difference between the NotebookLM and any other AI platform, as we said, let's say the Gemini or the ChatGPT, is that the slide deck generation is specific to the sources that we're adding with highly accurate results, no grammatical errors. We try many times for the Gemini to add, let's say, a picture. We can add some instructions. I want a picture that describes the change between kinetic energy and gravitational potential energy. We noticed many times that we have grammatical errors in the letters. So we try to fix that issue, still the issue is repeating, okay? So for the slide deck generation, it turns the complexity into clarity for students, again, because I can't add a prompt, link with this idea, link with that. Do not think about, let's say, for example, only one concept. We can merge all of the concepts together for a student. And at the same time, we can have a variety of concepts, just like to make students more engaged in the session. We can tell a story, we can speed up the understanding, enhances the memory, because you can add something like visual, so students will not forget. Maybe they can add some pictures related to a real life example. At the end of the day, students maybe will remember the picture with the hint on the picture rather than remembering a paragraph with formulas and rules. It transforms the knowledge into action, simply. It transforms the knowledge into actions, like by the ideas that we are implementing in the PowerPoint and by the help for the slide deck generation. So the thing that I was thinking about is that we can check for the vertical mechanics, like in the elevators in Beirut. I checked using NotebookLM. I added a node as the vertical mechanics in Beirut. I was checking for the work and energy, for the force. So I have chosen these three sources. This is the good thing. Now I neglected these. That's the PDF. I can just like delete the worksheet. I can ignore the worksheet. I can ignore the 2015 session for the physics, life science, and I can check only these three sources and go for the slide deck generation. Now, when going for the slide deck generation, again, this is the studio that we have. I need to press on the edit. Again, I have a detailed deck or the presenter slides. It depends. Is it short or default? Default, this will be taken by the AI. So the AI will decide whether this PowerPoint needs to be as short or a long PowerPoint presentation. Again, I can choose the language and I can add some notes. For example, I want some extra questions relating the work with the force, with the distance, for the positive work, for the negative work, some trigonometrical questions. It depends on the teacher. When checking the PowerPoint, by the way, the video will take around 10 minutes to be launched by the AI. Sometimes we need to refresh because it's graphically accurate and with high resolution, so it needs time. The same for the PowerPoint sometimes. So for the PowerPoint, I got this PowerPoint, I can download and I can share with my students. We can check the PowerPoint together. This done 100% by the NotebookLM. We can see the highly resolution, the graphics that have the AI did, and we can check now with the calculations and with the accuracy in physics. So this was a definition for the linguistic between the colloquial and the rigorous, the physics definition. We can now go, we can here just like check the work equals to force times distance, the first law. We can go through an example, application, you see the graphics. We can add some extra notes for the real life examples. It depends, okay? But I tried as much as possible to make it as simple as possible in order to share it with others, okay? So here we have, for example, an elevator, the same. Here we have the forces. Here we have defining the energy, look for the resolution for the wires and how it's just like revealing that we have electricity, the kinetic energy, the work energy theory, and this is the final, I think, slide for Beirut from a certain landscape, okay, picture. Have the PowerPoint. So the PowerPoint, again, we can download, we can share with others. It depends. And you can have some recommendation as a good content or a bad content. Now moving to the notes. Before we proceed with the infographic and whatever, you can add. So let's say, for example, let me close this one. I want to add a note for my study, for the PowerPoint, I forgot something. What should we do? Simply, I need to press on add note. When adding the note, for example, I want something like research about kinetic energy and elastic potential energy. So what should we do with that? Step one, I need to convert the note into a source. So from note, I'm moving into a source. Then from source, I can press on this note and use, let's say, the video or the PowerPoint, whatever you want to do. So step one, I added a note. Again, if it's not clear, this is the note. Let me delete and repeat again. Add note here on the right side. Okay, I added a note. The note, let's say, elastic and kinetic energy as defined on a spring. When adding the note, I need now to convert this note into a source. Okay. Done. This is a new note. It's converted into a source. I pressed 2 times, so it appeared 2 times, I think. Okay, so this is the note. Again, I can press on the note and use a mind map, use a video, or I can press on the note, let's say with the PDF, the YouTube that we were using, and continue my work. So if you forget something, that's not a big deal. You can press and proceed. No need to delete or no need to move backward. Now we're moving to the infographic. What is the infographic? Infographic is something good that you can enhance the visual learning at the end of the lesson. Maybe you have a concept, a summary for the lesson, instead of just like having formulas shared on the board, papers, maybe in Arabic, English for the grammar. You can use the infographic as summing up with pictures, which is also depending on something visual for students. So this is a good as a clarity, as a memory and utility. For example, I try to have an infographic comparing the distance time and the velocity time graph. So the same, you can have, for example, it depends. Maybe you have it as a source. I can add a source. So you can add it from your desktop, or you can have your own research. Let's say I need to have a deep research. What would you like to research? The distance time graph and velocity time graph differences and formulas, as well as the slope and the area for each of them. For example, أنا هون هستخدم ال AI as AI. Let's say I don't have a source for that. So when pressing on search, planning, now the AI, the NotebookLM, is searching for everything related for distance timing graph, for velocity timing graph, for the slope and everything. Please stay on this page. I need to wait maybe for 1 minute, 2 minutes. When getting the results, simply I need to click on them and press on the infographic. The infographic, the same. I need to press on edit. It depends. Maybe you need to have it as a poster to stick it on the board. Maybe you need to have it as portrait, as a square, the language and the level of details. So if you want to have it as a concept at the end of the lesson, maybe you need to have somehow a summarized concept. You need to have detailed one. So you need to press on the standard, on the concise one, and you can add the style, the color you want at the end of the lesson. So here we have step 2 of 5 complete. We're waiting for that. So the one that I have used for the infographic, the create an infographic, as we said, for the distance timing graph and the velocity timing graph, I tried to have something, so I got this result. Amazing result, because we're checking the accuracy and the graphics we're having as a slope. Sorry, the velocity timing graph and the acceleration. We're having the colors, an example on the left, on the right. So this is a visualizing motion, distance, time versus velocity timing graph. So far, any question?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
If there is something missing from the notes, does the notebook use data from the internet, for example, to compensate?
Because you said at the beginning, if you're adding the sources, let's say, for example, I want to have this one PDF only. Okay, and from that PDF, I want to have a PowerPoint presentation. Notebook cannot compensate and cannot add something externally. This is the good thing from the notebook, okay? Unless you can have the deep research so that you can check for every single detail and add your PDF as well and go for the options that we just explained. But you cannot have a guarantee that notebook will go and search for something unless you gave a notebook the permission to do that. Okay?
You can do that. Like if you give it a permission, it can do that.
Yes. You can just like simply have the search from here. Let's say distance time graph. Now the research is not too long because notebook now is trying to have a general research, especially I put the deep research for every single detail as authorized documents or links to check for the distance or the speed time graph and the position time graph. Okay, when I get the sources will appear on the left side, all sources. Now I can choose the source that I like. Okay, I can add this source, for example, with the PDF that I have and press, let's say, on the video or the slide deck for the presentation to make it more maybe professional and to make it more accurate. And you can search maybe for something on ChatGPT or even on chat history here to check for something linked. You cannot add something like linked with Lebanon and add something from USA. Okay, you need to be more aware with the sources that you are choosing to merge together, because at the end you're adding an input and the notebook LM is merging everything with the good and high accuracy and giving you a certain output. So you cannot add inputs that they are not matching. At the end of the day, the teacher has the experience for his class and for his subject, so you need to be more familiar with adding the sources. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Mustafa, كمل عادي.
ايه استاذ ايوب، ايه ما في مشكله. بعد معك وقت، اذا عندك اشياء محضره اكيد تابع.
معنا.
والزملاء اذا حدا عنده شيء استفسار او اي سؤال كمان ما في مشكله، يعني استاذ ايوب فينا نقاطعه ونساله بوقتها حتى ما نجمع اسئله كثير بعدين.
Okay. The quiz and exam builder. Quiz and exam builder, we can use whatever website we have as an AI, but the difference for the notebook LM is that we can have some differentiation, especially for a makeup exam. Maybe one of the students is absent in the class, so we need to make another exam for this student. So instead of having or spending the same time or more time to prepare for new questions, I can have in quiz and exam builder covering the same topics, the same outcomes, and as a spare, so that if someone is absent, or I can just like to have a reinforce on some of the topics, I can share with my students. So it's something good that real world alignment, inclusive learning, which is the differentiation, the strategic pedagogy for as a formative assessment, conceptual MCQs, and the massive efficiency. What does that mean? First of all, we have two things for the quiz builder. First thing, I can simply add as a note, as we said, I want a quiz. Let's say I want a quiz for 10 questions covering the DOK 1, 2, 3, and 4 for grade 9 physics student studying the Lebanese curriculum for energy. So now when I added the note, simply convert to source. When converting this note into a source, let me pass. Okay. When converting this note into a source, now I can press on the quiz. So the quiz in this case will generate. I can have the same for the quiz. I can customize the number of questions, standard, more, or fewer. The same, the level of difficulty, easy, medium, hard. So I can add here, for example, I want the things to focus on, maybe calculation, critical thinking, and generate. So this is number one. And the quiz in this case will appear here. Anything as an output will appear on the right side, generating quiz. So I did one before. I think the quiz was here. So this is a physics quiz based on one source, because I have chosen only one source for that. This was for the nuclear fission, let's say. We can add as a hint for students. Next, they can choose. So there is an answer and there is an explanation for the answer as well. It depends, okay, on the topic that we are using. So this was for the quiz, as we can have it as an assessment at the end of the session. But what about the differentiation? The differentiation is totally different. For differentiation, we need to use the chat. So I will start at the beginning. I did it before, so I did not delete. Okay, so I started like this. Based on the Lebanese official exam source, I have chosen this one before only. Okay, this source, the Lebanese official exam source. Create a level 1 foundational quiz. The goal is to test basic definitions and core facts. So I can, maybe to prepare my students for the official exams, I can choose this quiz and start with the basics. a 10 questions basics. At the end of the 10 questions, I can save them to a note. When saving them to a note, they will appear in the sources. So how to have the level 2 for differentiation? Now how to increase the level for the test itself? So again, I can, based on the same source, create a level 2 intermediate quiz. Now how to create a level 2 intermediate quiz? Now the NotebookLM has the permission as for the PDF for the exam itself as an exam, and for the quizzes or for the questions that he just did, and I added them as a source on the left. يعني NotebookLM will take into consideration the exam as a PDF, and will take into consideration the first 10 questions generated as for level 1. So we can generate now 10 more questions depending on something NotebookLM has generated, with taking into consideration the PDF of the exam. Now I got another 10 questions. Those are with level 2, يعني a little bit higher. At the end, also I have the save to note. When saving them to a note, okay, I can just like simply press and convert into a source. When converting into a source, the same, they will appear on the left side, because my work, the input that I'm adding will appear or will start from the left side to the right side. Okay, I cannot have something, I cannot play with the right and get from the left. So when adding this as a source, as a note, sorry, I need to press again and convert into a source. Then pressing on this one, I added a picture for that, pressing on it with the exam itself to prepare, let's say, for level 2. So I get now for level 2. This was for the level 1. I have chosen only the life science physics session 1. After that, I added this into a note. When adding this into a note, it will appear on the right side. You see, I highlighted this in a red box. So the foundational physics assessment, I need now to add this into a source. When adding this into a source, I will click on both of them now, the PDF exam itself and the foundational physics assessment done by the NotebookLM. Now I need to click on both. I need to ask him, please create a level 2 intermediate quiz, the same goal, the test, the application, for example, now. So when getting the 10 questions, adding them into a note, then adding them into a source, so that now, for example, based on the same sources, I need to create, let's say, a level 3 higher exam, maybe focusing more on critical thinking, focusing on reasoning questions, analysis, whatever questions we need to do. So here we're having a differentiation in the same class for different levels, for 3 levels, for 4 levels, whatever levels we have in the class. And at the same time, we are challenging gifted students, we're challenging smart students. And because we cannot just like have something like basic, as well as we cannot have something like also hard. Okay, so we can have like a ladder and to move from the basic and to the hardest questions. هذا for quiz builder. Clear? This is Mustafa.
تمام يعطيك العافية. تمام.
Now for the flashcards, we can have the flashcards as recall. Maybe you can use them as in order for students to revise, or at the beginning of the session, at the end of the session. Maybe you can use for primary classes, middle classes, حتى for high school. So it's like an instant creation. It's an active recall. So students, they can refer back to when studying or when having the session at the beginning as a starter for the session, or a plenary for the session at the end of the session, and summing up everything. It's accurate and it's built in context for something that you are searching. So if you're stuck, you can instantly see the source citation to understand the why behind the answer. So we don't have only the answer, however, we have the answer with an explanation. Okay, so how to have, let's say I need to make the AP physics formulas for AP physics mechanics, for example. So I need to add it as a note. If you don't have it as a source, we can go for a note as we did before and convert into a source. When converting this into a source, I will click on the left because it will appear now on the left as a source. I will click on this note that I have added and go for the flashcards. For the flashcards, let me open it here. For the flashcards, the same, we have the number of cards. We can add more. We can add the level of difficulty as medium, easy, hard. We can just like add some hints for the flashcards to be generated according to what we need to have in the class. Okay, so when checking the flashcards in the class, we ended up having this shape. So now I got 60 cards for physics flashcards. Let us check them on the website itself. Okay. So those are the physics flashcards I added according to, let's say, kinematics. What is the kinematic equation relating final velocity? See answer, pressing, I get the answer. Okay, I can have them all and I can download. This is the good thing. So what's the formula for the work done by constant force? Pressing, I got the answer. And if I forgot the answer or I did not understand the answer, how is the change? How is the change is mg delta h. I can explain and I get the answer in the chat history or in the chat box that I have in the middle. So it's not only giving us flashcards, however, it's giving us the flashcard, summarizing the lesson, letting students more familiar with the topic, more flexible with the topic, especially when we have much information at the end of the lesson. And at the same time, we are encouraging students to be more responsible and to go beyond the topic as a unit and to go and check for the analysis and for the reasoning. So what's the formula for average power? Excuse me. Okay, so what's the formula for the average power in terms of work? The same, P equals W over T. I forgot everything. What is the formula? You can add something like analysis questions or analysis just like for cards, maybe to make students think more deeply about the topic. L equals IW, the same, explain. I got the explanation. And the good thing is that the questions as a recommendation questions from the notebook LM are related for the question that I have asked. And how does the current resonance affect a circuit? Explain the difference between how do moderators help. So every recommendation is linked with something that I have just added. Okay, header for the flashcards. Again, I got 60 cards I can download, I can share with my students as well. I can share the full notebook with my class so that all of them we can just like have an access and they can check from the sources that I'm adding for them. Okay, this is for the flashcards. Okay, the reports. Before exams, many students they ask what topic we need to focus on or the materials that we need to follow up. We can have like a study guide before the exam, maybe having or summing up the main ideas, the notes, breaking up the complex materials into learnable parts to help students prepare for discussion, exam, and applications. We can have a briefing document at the end of each lesson. We can upload the PDF or the PowerPoint that we have, and we can have a briefing document having the main ideas, but as a documentation. It's different from the flashcard because this flashcard is giving us the pop-up, the main ideas. Briefing document, no, we have some ideas being explained, and the blog post is that explaining the ideas in an accessible narrative way. We can just like share the insights, the opinions, or the lessons learned. So the good thing is that could be exported into a Word document and then exported into a PDF. So we can have it as an archive with us to share back with the students. Okay, an example for the study guide. Let's say, for example, look, this is what we got. Maybe, for example, I need to have the PDF, this one, or the exam, the final exam. I need to go to the reports. For the reports, I have create your own. So craft reports your way by specifying the structures, the styles. You can have a briefing document, overview of your resources featuring key insights. I can have a study guide. I can share it with my students before the exam. So please, students, follow up the study guide. Check the study guide before having the exam. Prepare well and check the study guide to check your reflection or to have a self-reflection for what you've studied or prepared. And we can have blog posts, insightful takeaways distilled into a highly readable article. Maybe we can have this as more for English. I don't know. The suggested format, this is suggested by the notebook LM. You can read and you can check. Laboratory, for example, manual. I'm planning for a virtual lab. I'm planning for a practical lab inside the lab. I can check. I can upload the PDF for the lab, and I can get somehow a lab report and concept overview. It depends for the thing that we're searching. For the reports, I was searching now for a study guide. So I got the study guide. Okay. This one. So I added the exam as 2015 Life Science Physics exam in Lebanon, and I asked for a study guide. So this was an assessment evaluation for the secondary physics problem. So as you see here, we have a table, number of questions, the mechanics, the collision, everything related, explained as something for students to refer back to for questions. And at this end, we can have a table, the mechanics, and the distribution, the skills, for the table that we have, the strategic recommendations and everything. We can have copy content with formatting, and we can add this or paste in a Word document. Okay, this is for the study guide as for students and as well as for teachers. And you can have it as to quick and have a quick look for the exam or to have a quick look later on for what we were doing in the class with our students. So this is the PDF I added, I generated I waited. Sometimes if it's lagging, you can refresh so you get the output. And this is a picture for the study guide that I got. And finally, thank you. We can have one more thing, but before we finish, I stopped here. You can go for the data table. You can go for, I think, the mind map. I did a mind map. You can check it here. So the good thing for the mind map, let's say for the foundation of physics, mechanics, electricity, nuclear physics, you can press here. I got linear momentum. I want to know more about collision, press on collision. I want to know more about, let's say, the nuclear physics, the same. I can press radioactivity, I can press. So it's a mind map, which is something good, and at the same time is downloadable by the teacher, and you can share with your students. We can go also for the data table. The data table, the same. It is a customized table. It depends on create a table, let's say, with major findings. Maybe you can have it as for statistics, for math subjects. And these are the main things for the notebook LM. As I said at the beginning, the notebook LM is good that you are creating your own class. You're not following up ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever AI bot you are having. No, you're creating something that you can manage from the left side, because in Gemini or ChatGPT, you're scrolling down, you're having the chat, you forget the ideas that you started with. No, for the notebook LM, here I want to have a refresh. Maybe it appears now. However, for the notebook LM, everything is appearing on the left side. The thing that you don't like, you can simply delete. Okay, or whenever you get a source, in order not to forget, for example, this is a new note. What is that new note? Press on this. So this was the brief document for, I think it was for the physics, the AP physics. I can simply rename. Okay, I can rename the source. That's not in order not to forget at the end of the day what we have prepared. Basically, this is the notebook LM. We can just like add something for the LaTeX as to have a program as we did before for the LaTeX, so we can have our own program coding for the LaTeX and upload this as a PDF in our class or in our notebook LM. And at the end of the day, we can share this. Okay, we can share this either with students or with our colleague maybe in the school, or keep it with us as a reference and to support students with. If you have any question, let me know. But from my side, I finished, Mr. Mustafa.
اوكي زملاء، حدا بعد عنده شيء استفسار او سؤال؟ لانه الصراحه يعني فكره جديده، انا ما كان عندي تواصل عن الفكره هذا النوت بوك الام. تعرفنا عليها، افكار حلوه، اكيد بتساعدنا بكثير اشياء نحن كاساتذه فيزياء. وانا عم يخطر على بالي هيك افكار مثلا كيف فينا نطورها، مثلا يعني بتحضير مسابقات، ببرزنتيشن باوربوينت، بكثير اشياء ممكن نقدر نستفيد منها. يعني اي استاذ، يعني هون هلا في دعوه كمان لاي زميل معنا، اذا بحب عنده هيك فكره مثلا حابب يعرفنا عليها، او لقاء مثلا او سهره او اي موضوع، يعني الدعوه مفتوحه للجميع. بدل تجمع اساتذه الفيزياء هو منبر مفتوح للجميع. ف يعني بنتشرف احنا اكيد باستاذ ايوب وباي استاذ تاني بحب يشاركنا شيء من خبرته ومعرفته. شكرا كثير استاذ ايوب،
يعطيكم
يعطيكم الف
يعطيكم
عافيه
العافية،
زملاء.
يعطيكم العافية جميعا، يعطيكم العافية.
يلا تصبحوا على خير جميعا.